you're so used to knowing what you're gonna do every day. Like, you're gonna wake up, go to PT, you're gonna go to the office, you're gonna go lead your soldiers, you're gonna train them, you're gonna mentor and guide, and then all of a sudden, like, what is my purpose now? Like, I have no purpose. Like, I wake up and what do? I'll go golf, or well, maybe I'll just lay in bed for another couple hours, or and then you just kind of lose. You feel like you've lost your purpose and direction in life, and like you don't, but you go from one thing for 20 years, and all of a sudden it's gone. First couple of days, first week or two, like it's great. Then you're like, all right, I don't have something, I don't have a guiding, I don't have direction. I'm like, yeah, I got my family, like I know I got to provide for them, and thankfully, after you retire, like pretty much set up where you can sustain a good life, but you're not doing anything.
Welcome to Your Story Doesn't End Here, the mental health podcast of military and veterans who refuse to be silenced. I'm your host, Rachel, and my mission with this podcast is to be a voice for those who don't have a voice, bring awareness to mental health issues, provide value and solutions, and to change the culture when it comes to mental health within the DoD organizations. Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming back for another episode of Your Story Doesn't End Here. Today's guest is Josh Sears, who served 20 years in the U.S. Army, retiring in Edmond, Oklahoma with his wife Jennifer and their daughter Kayla. He enlisted on November 6, 2001 as an 11 Bravo infantryman, completing OSUT training at Fort Benning, Georgia. Josh deployed 4 times to Iraq with the 101st Airborne Division and later with the 1st Armored Division at Fort Bliss. After serving as a rappel instructor at Fort Jackson, he was reclassified to the quartermaster field, serving in various leadership roles at Schofield Barracks, Fort Drum, Camp Humphreys, and Fort Dix. He founded the 10422 Foundation, that's FORE 22 Foundation, to support veterans and first responders, ensuring they receive the care and community support they deserve. Josh, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into hearing more about you, what you do, and a little bit more about your background, if there is one word or a few words you could use to describe how you are feeling going into this recording today, how would you describe that?
Excited and nervous.
Fair enough. All right, Josh. Well, I know you said this is the first time you've podcasted, so understandably so that you would be excited and nervous, but I'm so excited to have you on here today. And like I said, before we started recording, I've had a few first-time podcasters on the show before, and it always ends up being such an incredible conversation, and we learn so much in that conversation. So I'm going to pass it off to you, though, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit more about yourself. I was Navy, so when I'm reading things like bios about 11 Bravo and all that goes over my head, I'm sure there's some listeners that are like that too. So if you wouldn't mind first just sharing a little bit about yourself, and then you can share more about what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. Originally born and raised in Rhode Island. I have older brothers and sisters that are a little bit older, so I'd always get beat up and get toughed around a little bit, but it was cool. Always played sports growing up, and golf was never really a big thing until like right as I was finishing high school, getting ready to go into service after a very stern talking to from my father, who was in the Marine Corps during Vietnam, in 0311, which is infantry guy for the Marines, and he threatened me with life if I joined the Marine Corps. So I was like pretty shocked. Yeah, so after joined the army. I was only originally wanted to do 3 years, and then I didn't want to go back to Rhode Island. It wasn't anything good for me there, so I re-enlisted and deployed again and got married right before my second deployment. And that was her decision, not mine, which is weird. So got married, deployed, came back, hung out, deployed again, and moved, and had a really good career with ups and downs, just like everybody else. Wife was great backbone and support system for me, as well as my family. Moving throughout the country, going through the hardships, losing friends in battle, blown up, shot, all that good stuff, and the ups and downs that come with our jobs. So, being able to rely on her was great. Then we adopted our daughter back in 2014, no, 2013. Yeah, in 2013, we adopted our daughter in South Carolina, and just enjoy the rest of our military career. And then once I decided to hang it up, at first I felt like it was a wrong decision, just because everything I knew and did for an entire lifetime just came to an abrupt stop, and it seems like people just forgot about you. But I enjoy it now. It's nice not waking up at 30 to wait an hour for something, and then waiting at the end of the day for the word to go home. So now I do what I want when I want to do it, when I have time to do it.
So you, as a lot of, I would say, former combat vet or combat vets do when I talk to them on here, just kind of really glaze over your service. But I know there's a lot there to unpack for anyone that has served, especially in a combat role. So would you mind getting into some of the, maybe not so much for you heavy, or maybe it is heavy, some of the
Mhm.
heavier things, or some of the things that you experienced when you're serving that maybe some people can relate to listening,
Yeah,
maybe some people find horrific listening. I mean, I think the thing I've learned with the combat veterans is that the things that most of society finds like absolutely horrific, when I interview a combat veteran, they're just like, no, it was just like normal day to day. And
yeah,
so I don't like to use that word horrific or use like really, really negative words because that wasn't my world. Like I never really
yeah.
experienced that when I served. I was in the Navy. But would you mind digging a little bit deeper into some of the things that you experienced when you were serving?
Yeah. So like my first deployment when we turned the invasion into Iraq back in early '03, we breached the border, had all the chemical suits on except for like a mask, just because we were one that Saddam had Scud missiles and would use them on us. So and then once we got to Baghdad and after the fight for Baghdad International and stuff, and with all his loyalists, it was just kind of like fishing. We were the bait to draw out people to come find us and shoot us, or shoot at us, so we can kill them essentially. But one of the first things that really hit me hard was when we were in Baghdad doing patrols. Like they started letting the kids go back to school, and I had two young nieces back home that like looked up to me, and I just look at this one little girl walking, and she looked exactly like my youngest niece, and it kind of catches you hard. Like you don't expect a grown man to sit there and tear up while have some tears running down his face while you're trying to do your job. But that hit hard, and then once you start engaging in battles and you pull the trigger on somebody, and like what you just did, you just ended somebody's life. Like when you grow up, not really in Rhode Island, there was no guns. Like we didn't go to the gun range, shoot guns. We didn't go hunting. Not a lot of people did that up in that area where I was from. So when you start doing that, it's kind of like, man, everything that I've been told in my whole life growing up, like I just did the opposite. But then you start realizing, well, it's them or me. And I want to go home to mom. I want to go home to my family. If you're the one that wants to come out and play games, you're going to win that prize. So
I appreciate you sharing that story. I think if it's more in perspective for anyone listening, that,
yeah.
war isn't just the images we see on TV or lately social media, right? Like, and a lot of them are gruesome, but I think at the same point, when we hear someone's personal story of what it is that for them was really tough or was challenging to get through, I think it puts it more in perspective. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
What was it? I know you said that the thought of, it's them or me, or this is my job. There's a few words that you use to describe, but what was it that you think really helped get you through that time period in your life, knowing that it was like polar opposite from how you grew up?
Everybody else that I was with, like all your battle buddies, or they actually become your more like your friend or your family than anything else. Because I mean, you live with them, they're sleeping next to them, like you're with them 24/7. You have to count on them to have your back and keep you alive, and they got to count on you. So knowing that it comes from all different parts of the country and different backgrounds, and a lot of them go through the same thing. Like I didn't grow up doing this. I grew up playing sports, or I helped power on the farm. But when you come and engage in battle, like it's it's where something just kicks in, like and it just like you think about it, and then like, all right, well, I don't want to die, so resort on your training, and then you lean on your brothers that are right there with you going through the same thing. And nobody wants to be that guy that says something first. But once somebody cracks that ice, then it's just like, all right, big roundtable discussion. Everybody's like, all right, well, we're going to help each other through this. And through other deployments and other things that go on throughout life, like we treat it the same way. Like most people that would like affect them like bad, they got to hit them hard. Like their minds be all messed up. And we're just like, well, he's with me. So I got somebody that's here with me. So I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that a lot too. And I think that's what a lot of the veterans organizations that I see are really leaning on is that community, like rallying
Yep.
around each other, building that community. How can we continue to support each other and the veteran side of things? Before we get into 10422 and talk a little bit more about that, I wanted to ask you when you were done with that period of your life, did you experience that I guess not maybe not that mental health break, but did you experience that like shock of something different of having to come down from the combat environment, or
Mm.
did you experience any challenges when you separated from the military that you had to deal with?
Yeah, absolutely. Just you're so used to knowing what you're gonna do every day. Like, you're gonna wake up, go to PT, you're gonna go to the office, you're gonna go lead your soldiers, you're gonna train them, you're gonna mentor and guide, and then all of a sudden, like, what is my purpose now? Like, I have no purpose. Like, I wake up and what do? I'll go golf, or well, maybe I'll just lay in bed for another couple hours, or and then you just kind of lose. You feel like you've lost your purpose and direction in life, and like you don't, but you go from one thing for 20 years, and all of a sudden it's gone. First couple of days, first week or two, like it's great. Then you're like, all right, I don't have something, I don't have a guiding, I don't have direction. I'm like, yeah, I got my family, like I know I got to provide for them, and thankfully, after you retire, like pretty much set up where you can sustain a good life, but you're not doing anything. So my wife told me, I was like, after like 3 months, she's like, babe, you're being an asshole. Go find a job. I was like, all right, well, I'll go find a job. And your spouse tells you you're an asshole, go find a job. You got to listen.
So, what was helpful for you in that first bit when you were, I think we a lot of us veterans have those similar stories, right? Like it's
Mhm.
exciting at first because how many years do we all talk about like the other side and it's like this magical unicorn, like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I can't wait to be a civilian," and then like you get there and it's like really exciting at first, and then it's like, oh, well, this is different. And I think this
Yeah.
is something that every veteran experiences, right?
Yep.
Because it is a major life change, whether you serve 4 years or 20 years, and there are still a lot of people that really embody their job and their
Yeah.
career, and then, it hits them a lot harder because they just don't know who they are anymore. There's that
Mhm.
identity crisis. And so for you, I know you said your wife told you get a job. So I know
Yeah.
having other people to just kind of push you is very helpful. But for you, what do you think was the most helpful?
I found a really good group of veterans that kind of just embrace each other, and they give you that stern talking to. They don't tell you what you want to hear. That's the great thing about veterans. You get together, they're going to tell you the truth. They're not going to sugarcoat it. And they tell you, hey, man, why don't you go find something that will occupy you during the day, you still have family time. So having a good, obviously your family's a good support structure and they can guide you, but they're more of like a comforting structure. But having lead you or steer you or sugarcoat anything bad, and then we moved out here on the limb, didn't know nobody, was never stationed here, never lived here before. So they kind of like they help you out and like, oh, I got a guy that's hiring, so go work for him. And they put a good word in, so it's cool. It was great. You just keep building friendships, and that was good. Like finding that veteran group and those veterans, like almost instantaneously. As soon as we got here, it helped out a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's something quite common that I hear too is finding the veteran group to hang the community. And so that brings us into the 10422. And so I'm curious what got you into that. Talk us through the process leading
Yeah.
up to that.
It's actually been about 4.5, 5 years of, I guess, in the making. We started doing them back in 2019, and it was just, we weren't a foundation yet. We were just four families, four friends that just got together. It's like, hey, let's walk and play 100 holes of golf and raise money and donate it to different organizations that help out veterans and first responders. So we did that. We did our first one in 2019 at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I mean, we did it 100 holes in like 10 hours, like just over 10 hours. 35 miles. It essentially turns out to like 35 to 40 miles of walking. So many golf swings, like I can't count that high. And then, we did that, raised just under 3,000 and donated to an organization called Veterans for Life USA that helps vets and first responders get to treatment centers around the country for whatever they need it for. And we did it again a year and a half later, again in New Jersey at TPC Yachts in the Plana. Raised just over 3,000 for Tunnels to Towers. And, we just kind of, I was getting ready to transition out, retire and separate. So kind of took a pause and, we all stayed in contact. But then once we got here, I was like, I want to keep this going, but I want to make it big. So, I talked to my buddy that started his own foundation, hey, how do I go about creating one? And he helped guide me through the process with the paperwork, what I got to do to get the EIN number, file with the government, be registered with the state. And it was a long process of just waiting. Like once you do the paperwork and turn it in, now you just wait. And we all know state and federal governments take their time. And they have to do their due diligence, which is great, but as guys, especially me, like I'm impatient. If I want something, I want it now. So it took a while. Then we got it, we got everything set up, and now we got our a 501(c)(3) status. We have our website. They got Instagram and social media pages and stuff. And now it's just We've got an event coming up in 25 days. We'll be doing a 126 hole marathon in North Carolina. And now, so that's in November, and we got a cool thing planned for that. With the opening ceremonies the day before, and then now, Cost Down in Florida wants us to come out in February, March timeframe to do an event down there. So we're starting to gain traction, and it's great. It's really great to see where we've started and where we're going, and it's humbling, and but it's also just awesome how like it just we're getting all these people that are joining to us, different organizations, and we all have collectively the same mission and mindset. We just have different paths to get there, but we're all coming together to accomplish this goal to help out and really make a difference in the numbers. Like, let's decrease the suicide numbers amongst veterans and first responders. Let's decrease, you know, like the domestic violence issues, the addiction issues, because it all relates and stems from the mental health. Like, we all see things that normal people won't see. Like, no matter what profession it is, military, law enforcement, fire, EMS, nurses, doctors, like you see the negatives of life, and you're not really supposed to. How do you really combat that? And I feel like there's like the big stigma with mental health. Like, you hear somebody say, I got to go to my head doctor, my psychiatrist," and everybody's like, "Ugh," they want to staunch you. Like, okay, first you need to get rid of it. The hardest step to do is to ask for help. But if somebody's asking for help and you snarl at them, it's just going to set them back 10 more steps, right? But if we can go to the doctor to make sure our immune system's good and our bodies are healthy, we can go to the gym to make sure our muscles are good. But why is it a bad thing? The most important organ is in your body. You want to make sure that's running good, but it's looked upon badly to go seek help. Like, that's the biggest issue. And that's like the number one thing that every organization that wants to make a difference, that's that big hurdle that everybody's facing. And the only I feel, and like my team and the other organizations that we're working with, and I'm pretty sure everybody else, like, the only way we're going to combat this is a strength in numbers. You can't tackle something on your own. Like, if you want to be that person or that group that wants to, no, we're going to do this on our own. Okay, but we're here if you need it. Let them figure it out. But so we have no, we love teaming up with other people that have the same mission and goal set, because it's the only way we're going to get, it's the only way anything's going to happen. You have to be able to work with somebody to get the help. Like, if I was to go ask for help, like, okay, I need help. I'm not asking or teaming up with people to help me out. It's like I'm talking to a wall.
Absolutely. And so are you guys still the mission that what you initially started with, raising money and giving it to other veteran organizations, is that still what you're doing, or have you guys
Yep.
expanded on that?
That's still what we do. I guess you more or less classify it as like we're a catalyst type organization. So we don't have staff people to, treat for, to go to talk to for mental health or for addiction or whatever. But we find, like, whenever we do an event, like, we find organizations in that area, and we call them, let them know what we're doing, and we're raising money, for as first responders. Your organization takes care of these folks, through whatever way, and we donate the money to you. So that's what we do. Because a lot of people don't know how to help somebody get along. Because going to like rehab treatments and or inpatient treatments for mental health issues, addiction, it's expensive. So like the normal person is just not going to sign like a $20,000 check. Hey, go ahead, go get yourself checked out. Like, okay, I can donate a couple $100 while these guys play golf. So we get multiple people that do that. Now we start making that, we get those funds, and like, hey, now we can help that. And then as us, being out there doing it and going engaging in communities and going to, different firehouses, police stations, and talking to those people, like, hey, it's okay to ask for help. Like, we are here for you. Like, I mean, you turn the news on, it's always bad stuff, right? But there's a whole community and an entire nation that stands behind all these folks that serve and protect us, front lines overseas, at home, in the hospitals. Like, but they need outs too. But if they don't feel like people behind them really do anything about it, or you're just gonna keep everything bottled up.
Right. Yeah, and I love the catalyst organization concept too, because I think that when it comes to people donating money, for some people it's a finicky area, right? Because there's
Mhm.
the concept of, or the idea of, am I donating to the right organization? Am I donating to people that are doing something good with the money? Because I mean, we all know that not every organization is a good organization, and I wish it wasn't that way, but that's just the
Mhm.
reality of the world that we live in, right? And
Right.
knowing that you're A, having fun and doing something either new or something that you thoroughly enjoy. I'm not much of a golfer, but I would not be opposed to learning golf. But I know there's a lot of people that really love that. And I've actually talked to quite a few retired individuals, a lot of them veterans who say like golf is a great pastime to
Mhm.
get around that community. I think that's the word that was brought up with the last conversation I had specifically surrounding golf
Yeah.
was that if you are retired and you want community, and this is an issue that a lot of our older population, veterans, non-veterans faces when they retire is that, instead of going to work every day, and being around people that you know, that you recognize, that you can conversate with. A lot of the elderly, or maybe not even elderly, but just retirement age
Yeah.
individuals, they do isolate. And so golf is great not only for that older population, but for a lot of our military population who, some
Yeah.
of them are serving 20 years, retiring when they're in their 40s, and then what, right?
Yeah.
So that community piece I think is such an important aspect, but also knowing that it's an easy way to be able to give back without having to go and do all this, mundane research and feeling like your money isn't going towards a good cause. And
Yeah.
so I love the concept of it. And so you mentioned that you have a few events in a few different states. Are you looking to continue to expand across the nation, or are you just looking to hold events in very specific areas?
Our ideal dream is an event in every state almost every day. Like, I mean,
Wow.
obviously, it won't be us doing it 100 holes every day, but as we grow, hopefully, we can bring in people that want to step up to the challenge of doing these marathons. And with that, like, so depending on how the course is, like some courses, like you could walk it, but you're not gonna walk 100 holes with elevation changes, like in distances from greens to tees, and like depending on the topography. But so there's some courses that, like, if we use golf carts, like, we're gonna do a minimum of 126. We're just 7 complete rounds, but if there's daylight, we're gonna keep going. But if we walk a golf course, like 100 holes, that's going by the first one nope, the second one I did at TBC Yasna on the 100th hole. It's the 18th hole of the golf course, but, you play it numerous times. Like, I hit my tee shot, and then, like, my back just locked up, and I dropped, and my brother's my caddy. He's like, you okay?" I was like, "Yep. Nope. I'm dead." But, I mean, it puts us through pain, 35, 40 miles, consistently, like, sweating, so it's fun, but it's gruesome. But, anyways, yeah, we wanna be all over the country, like, every state, multiple events, multiple times. So, hopefully, as we continue to do these and we gain traction, we really become a known foundation out of like the thousands that are out there. People be like, "Oh no, I know. Yep, that's a good organization." And
Yeah.
like like you said earlier, there's some organizations out there that are not beneficial. We don't want to be that, so we do what we can to make sure that like everything is tracked. Like you want to know what comes in, where it goes, every penny. There you go. We're gonna show you. And we don't want no negativity because that's never a good thing, right? If our goal is to help people and we're not helping them, then what are we really doing? So,
Right. And so if someone wanted you to come out to their state to host one of your marathon events, is that something that they would coordinate with you on, or how does that process work?
so if they want us to come out, give us a golf course. Like, we just we'll call the golf course and talk to the head pro or the golf management team. That's depending on what kind of course it is, and then we just begin negotiations. The two courses we done already, and then the one we do in November, they have donated us the course, meaning we didn't have to pay a fee to play. They welcomed us in there and donated the course to us to because they believed in our mission, and so we do what we can to take care of the course as well. But there's going to be some courses out there that, private courses, like, well, we can't give it to you pro bono, but, we'll give you a discounted rate, for fees or whatever. So, and, it just depends on how much those fees are. Cause if it's too much, it takes away from the profits that we can give, to help out the people. And it's,
Okay.
it's going to happen and we know it. And it's not a bad thing on the course for anybody. It's just everybody's going to make money,
Right.
especially golf courses. They got to make money to maintain, keep the standards good for their members and the players that come out there on a regular. Where just a team of guys come in and just want to play 100 holes.
Right.
We don't know you, but and that's fine. Like we're prepared if we need to pay like fees, we can, but it also depends on the cost. Like
Okay. And then are you guys paying to transport yourself, or are you asking that communities that want you to come out help sponsor travel for anyone that needs to logistically be there to put on the event?
we travel ourselves, we pay for
Okay.
ourselves. Yep.
Okay.
So if they want to, if somebody like a transportation company steps like, hey, we'll fly or bus your, whatever your team for half price of what it normally costs, like, all right, let's do it.
Right.
Right now, we're fine with paying for ourselves to get out there, pay for our own lodging, so that way all the money we raise is it all goes to the vets and first responders. And as we get bigger, we get those sponsors, like sponsorships to help take care of them.
Okay. Good to
So,
know. Good to
oh
know.
yeah,
Yeah. Because I know we have several listeners across the country, and there's obviously a huge push for not only awareness, but also, organizations that are stepping up and doing things really across the country. I think, oftentimes we think about the main military hubs, which really are a lot of the coastal states, a lot of the states that have the big bases on them, but there's so many states that aren't really thought of much when it comes to veterans. There's a lot of rural
right.
communities. That's something that's
Mhm.
come up quite a bit for me lately too. I live in what's considered to be a rural community. And so if you are listening to this episode and you live in an area that, maybe veterans aren't as hyped up as a place that has a big military base, or you live in a rural community, I encourage you to figure out ways to make things like this happen in your community. Why? Because it's a very simple way to realistically, at the end of the day, raise awareness, but then also build community. And community has been one of those things that has been such a large talking point. We've talked about it several times just in this episode today of how important community has been in your personal journey, Josh. And so, thinking about all these places that aren't being tapped into because
Mhm.
a lot of the times it is hard to put on really, really large events, but it sounds like this is pretty simple. I mean, just find a golf course that's willing to
Yep.
make something happen and then you guys handle the rest. So I love that. I think that simplicity piece, mainly when it comes to awareness, but then
Mhm.
also there's action involved in it. And so I absolutely love what you guys are doing. Where can we find you and where can we support you, or how can we support you?
So we have our website www.100fore22foundation.org. And then if you just look up 100 for 22 Foundation on Instagram and Facebook, you'll see us. I think it's on Instagram. It's 100 for 22 Foundation underscore Foundation, and then Facebook is just a space between 22 and Foundation.
Okay. And
Yep.
I'll link all that stuff in the show notes for anyone that is interested in going and at least checking it out. Like I say every episode, please at a minimum go follow all the social media pages. If you're on social media, I guarantee 99% of you listening are on social media. At least go follow those pages and then, like, interact, share, because you never know who in your network would be interested in
Yep.
supporting something like this or needs something like this. And so that stuff is all free, but if someone wanted to donate, is there an option to donate as well?
Yep. On the website, there's two donate now tabs. One, because we also collect patches from different military and first responder units, and for our, what we call a wall of heroes. So there's, you click on that one if you want to send in a patch. It tells the address, and then another one, it goes right to like was it PayPal, like the PayPal, the Venmo,
Yeah.
straight to our bank. So there's different ways depending on how people want to work their donations right to that. And then if there's any questions, always just message us either through the website or Facebook Messenger. Like somebody's always on that. Like we'll get those
Awesome.
messages instantaneously and always here for everybody.
Awesome. Good to know. So again, all that information will be posted in the show notes. You don't have to be, writing it down and figuring that all out right now, but please go support in whatever way that you are able to. And any support for organizations like this, it really makes a huge difference. Because at the end of the day, we're all out here just trying to make military and veterans' lives better and to reduce, if not stop, the number of suicides that are happening within our veteran population in this country. So Josh, I'm so appreciative of the work that you are doing. So appreciative that you took the time to be on this episode today. Did we want to shout out your counterpart who couldn't make it today? It's just,
Yeah, my buddy Will Clark, he's taking care of the family. It's
yeah,
the the allergies around here are bad, so it's hitting everybody. So family first and always.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, he was supposed to be with us today, but maybe we'll get him on a separate recording one of these days.
Oh yeah.
So he doesn't miss out. But thank you anyway for doing this and sharing more of your message and your mission with the world. And like I said, any way that we can support as far as just getting word out there, please let me know. And the followers of this podcast that follow on social media, they'll be able to see that information and share that as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And please continue to keep up the good work. It's very much needed. Are there any last words or a piece of advice that you want to leave the listeners with to wrap up today?
Yeah, like I said earlier, the biggest step you can do is to ask. It's the biggest and hardest one. And everybody would rather listen to your story than your eulogy.
Thank you for taking the time to listen in today. With your support, we are able to increase awareness of the mental health issues affecting service members and veterans today with the goal of creating positive change. If you got value from this episode, please take 30 seconds to subscribe and share this episode within your own network. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your mental health matters, and your story doesn't end here.